Skeptic Zone, a miracle of technology. A universe of reason, the Skeptic Zone.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 51 on the 9th of October 2009. Richard Saunders here with you once again from Sydney, Australia. In this week's episode, we have more reports from Dr. Rachie visiting New York. She went and dropped in on the Jolly 13 Club, a club dedicated to bad luck. And after that, we have the Think Tank with Joe Benhamu, Dr. Rachie, and Dianne. But before we get to all that, a few quick announcements. Don't forget to visit our Facebook page, and you can go there by following the link from www.skepticzone.tv. Now, our reporter Kylie Sturgis has been very busy putting up lots and lots of videos on that Facebook page, worth checking out. Also, don't forget that the Australian Skeptics National Convention, end of November, is being held in Brisbane. More details at www.skeptics.com.au and check out the Skeptics webpage while you're at it. Also, if you want your event or blog or podcast or anything you like really to do with skepticism mentioned on the Skeptic Zone, drop us a line. We'd love to be able to mention you and help you out. For those people listening to the show in Australia, I noticed that the ABC TV have a new show called Hungry Beast. Now, apparently there's quite a big skeptical element to this show. Worth checking out. Check your local guides. Hungry Beast on the ABC. Worth not checking out is that dreadful show Sensing Murder, which is infesting New Zealand television at the moment. Those people listening in New Zealand, we managed to get rid of this dreadful show out of Australia. I'm sorry it's migrated its way to our friends in New Zealand and it's plaguing your country. If you want to do something about this nonsense on your TV, which is basically so-called psychics trying to solve murders in the worst possible taste, write to the TV station involved and let them know you're unhappy about this. Also, ask them how many murders have been solved with Sensing Murder in New Zealand, in Australia, and any other country it's been tried at. The figure is very easy to remember, and it rhymes with 0. Sensing Murder, big thumbs down. Oh well, enough about that. Let's get on to this week's episode of The Skeptic Zone.
Now it's time for Dr. Rachie Reports with Dr. Rachael Dunlop.
Hello everyone and welcome to Dr. Rachie Reports. This week I continue some of my reports from New York City, and this time I speak to a couple of people at the monthly meeting of the Jolly 13 Club. This club is organised by Danny Kaye, and the Jolly 13 is a revival of a club dating back to the 19th century in New York, which was established by a famous New York socialite to tempt the fate of superstitions. Danny's club still observes some of the practices of the original club by breaking superstitions at various bars and restaurants around New York City, and he does it on the 13th day of every month. Here I talk to Danny on a Sunday afternoon on the 13th of September, sitting outside on the streets of Midtown, New York City. And I'm still here at the Vero Bar in New York City on the corner of 53rd and 2nd Avenue, and I'm here with Danny Kaye.
Hello.
Hi, Danny.
Hi to everybody in Australia.
Can you explain to our listeners what we're doing here?
So, once a month we get together on the 13th, and we have a very skeptical dinner where we break superstitions. So we spill salt, try to get black cats, and although most places don't allow cats. But,
which actually, can I just say though, before, just a while back, no, there still is. There's a parrot down there. Can you see that? It's like this huge parrot. We're sitting outside of Vero Bar, and there's a lady with a dog, and she's got a giant parrot.
Well, this is New York, so a parrot, it's a fairly normal pet to have.
Is it?
Usually people have iguanas, you have people walking around with Gila monsters. I mean, it's a chaos out here.
What monsters?
Gila monsters?
What's that?
The dragons, the Gila dragons, yeah.
Right.
I haven't seen those yet, but I'm sure they're around.
So you don't have a cat, but I noticed you have got a crow. Can you explain to our listeners about the crow?
There's a lot of superstitions that are based around crows. people say that if you see one crow flying from the left side, it's bad luck. If you see two flying from the right side, somehow they cancel each other out, and it's good luck. So we figured to have a very unlucky mascot for our club. But this club is not actually the original thing. There was another one that was hosted in New York about in 1880s, and that was run by he was Sir William Fowler. He was a general, a very illustrious general and politician, and he actually hosted it at his house. And it was the very first social club in New York to host women, to host ladies' nights and invite the finer sex.
And you were saying that he did that deliberately because he thought women had a lot more superstitions, is that right?
According to him, he thought that women and men were both superstitious, and there was no reason why to have a society that's divided in anything, including irrationality.
Right.
So I thought that was a very good good thing.
So what sort of things did he do at his club? Similar to what you do, where you spill salt and...
Well, he had a little more resources than we do. He had actually a very large house in the city. And when people wouldn't come over, first of all, he had one rule: you only come at groups of 13. You always sit down at a table of 13. We are a little more lax with that kind of thing. But he had people walk underneath ladders. He had a big sign in front of his house which stated "Moraturi te salutamus," which means those that are about to die salute you. And that was also tempting death. And for women that came, he actually gave them all a present, which was a little glass coffin, and inside of it was a tiny skull head with perfume in it.
Oh, right.
So if the girls would be willing to open the coffin, they'd have a present. So we aren't quite there yet, but we're working on it. And today we actually had people sell our souls. And you sold your soul.
I did. I sold my soul.
Yes.
And I sold my soul to the crow, right?
Yes, to Gerard the Unlucky Crow. Our
Gerard
mascot.
the Unlucky Crow.
Yes.
So inside the restaurant there is Gerard, who's a stuffed crow. Is that a real crow?
No, it's plastic.
Right, but he's got feathers. I gave him a pat. And
Yes,
he's quite
the feathers
soft.
are real.
Right.
I believe.
And he's sitting on a nest or something, isn't he?
Yes, which actually Ellen made that one.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
and yeah, it's basically speckled, I think lichens, dried lichens, and he's kind of sitting there looking all unlucky and mischievous.
Yeah. And so we signed our soul over to him. Can you tell our listeners about that?
Well, actually, honestly, it was a way to get people to give me their email addresses.
So you can spam us with...
Yes, I can spam you with future events of the Jolly 13. And it's basically, people have very ingrained superstitions particularly about their own consciences, about their own soul. Even people that don't believe in God say, well, yes, but I wouldn't want to part with my immortal soul, because where else would I be? And personally, I think that's kind of silly. I mean, life is enough and great as it is, so I don't think we need to rely on any superstitions or anything that's out of the ordinary to still be special. Just because we're here and we know we're here, we're special enough. So I figured, actually, one person didn't sign the contract today. He was very not comfortable doing that.
Really?
Yes.
He didn't want to pass his soul over to Gerard the Crow?
Nope. He refused to, and I asked him for his email on the other side of it. He said to give him any other paper but that. So he just refused to do that. So it just shows how much people are uncomfortable about a lot of the superstitions that are fairly rational, but are mandated by most of society.
Yeah.
So I just think that's very amusing.
Yeah. So you're also involved in the Skeptics in New York, are you? Or you would consider yourself a skeptic?
I am definitely a skeptic. I come out to drinking skeptically every month. I am embarrassed to say that I did not pay my dues yet, so I'm not technically a member of the New York City Skeptics, but that will be remedied today.
Okay.
I will go online and I will do the installment. But we have a very good community in New York. We have a number of great groups. We have New York City Skeptics. We have a Center for Inquiry, which is run by Michael Dodora, who comes out quite often. We have people come out of other places like George Schwab, who was there at the last meetup. And if you do look at the Fox story, you'll see George's head kind of in the shot at all times, which I thought was
so you
very
were just
pertinent.
telling me before we started this that Fox News did a story on the Jolly 13.
Yes.
What happened there?
So I'm friends with David Silverman, who's the vice president of American Atheists. And if you ever see that atom with an A in the middle of it, that's their logo, their corporate logo. And the Fox News contacted him about the social aspects of atheism.
Uh-huh.
And she told them that, well, there's my friend who hosts a group, and technically we're not strictly atheist. We're not an atheist group. We're more of a skeptic group. But majority of the people that come out are atheists. Some are not, but we're not really centered on that aspect of it. But he mentioned us, and they came out. They kind of...
So they came out to a meeting, did they?
Yes,
okay.
They came out to a meeting with a camera crew. Well, one camera. And they filmed us hanging around, talking. Took some interviews, took my interview, took Michael's interview. Didn't use a single thing I said.
Really?
Not a word. Did interview him, however, and did use one of the phrases that he said, and it was fairly good. They did a 2-minute skit. And the first minute and 30 seconds were honestly not that bad. Although they did start the whole thing with, these people get together, but they're not a regular group. They're atheists and agnostics, which I didn't think was necessary, but...
Yeah, probably not relevant to the Jolly 13,
not at all.
right?
not one bit. But,
Yeah.
it is Fox News, so we take what we could get.
Yeah.
And they kind of, when they were interviewing me, they kind of asked me some questions like, how often do you guys get together and bash religion? And I said, we really don't do that. Well, yes, we kill babies and sacrifice kittens.
Yeah, I didn't see the altar inside, though.
No.
You don't normally come to this venue, though, do you?
We ran out of babies today, so
I see,
I'm very
okay.
sorry. We
Right.
couldn't...
well, you couldn't get a baby for me. I mean, come on, it's my first time in New York City.
Yeah,
and-
but yeah, they did a fairly decent thing up until 30 seconds before the end, where they got some nut job guy who claimed he's an atheist that thinks religion is the best thing that could happen to the world, which I happen to disagree with. I think that atheists could be plenty happy without it. I don't think that it... it does serve a purpose in society, but only for people that need it to serve a purpose for.
So the story seems like it was more about the atheist community rather than your club, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. It was pretty much complete. Well, they were looking for the atheism aspect. Well, the social aspects of atheism.
Right. Okay.
So I could see how they'd say that this is sort of that. It's a part of it, but there's no such thing as a social aspect of atheism. Atheism just states what you don't believe in.
Yeah.
Just because people get together and hang out and talk and it's not in a church doesn't mean that it's... I fail to see their point.
Yeah, it's kind of a bizarre concept, isn't it? Because it's irrelevant. Like,
exactly.
We're here to drink and have some fun, and there's just a bit of an underlying theme, which is superstitions and...
Well, yeah. And I mean, if a person is superstitious, we're not gonna ostracize them. We're not gonna start yelling at them. We might ask them, why do you believe the thing that you believe in? Which is not a very unreasonable question. But we won't probe, or we try not to make anybody uncomfortable. We want everybody that can to join. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So have you had any people come join who were superstitious, or...
Well,
I guess the guy today that wouldn't sign the...
Today, a gentleman was...
Immortal soul.
Yep,
yeah.
And we had a couple of months ago, we had somebody that refused to eat pork on religious grounds, but I don't know if that would lump as superstition per se. But, I mean, again, some people do put religion and superstition in one bag.
Yeah.
And the person that actually started it, William Fowler, was one of those people.
Right, okay.
And he actually had... Robert Green Ingersoll was actually one of the keynote speakers at one of the dinners. So if anybody has a curiosity about that, I strongly recommend you check out his speech. He's a phenomenal speaker.
What was he talking about at the dinner?
He was talking about superstitions, about religion as a superstition, about irrationality, about the basis of irrational beliefs, and about why they're damaging in society. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice... I think it's about 2 or 3 pages worth of a very good speech, which I strongly recommend. Yeah, I mean, it's Robert Green Ingersoll. You can't go wrong.
So what's his name, Robert?
Robert Green Ingersoll.
Robert Green Ingersoll.
Yes.
Okay. So people Google him, they'll be able to find that?
Oh, yeah. He's a big name. He was one of the first truly outspoken atheists in America.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was... I believe he lived in the turn of the century. And he has a very good lecture series on religion and the evils of religion. And I wouldn't personally recommend it to somebody that is religious.
Right, okay.
If you have a friend that's religious and you want to introduce them to atheism, don't do it with that.
Okay.
You will lose that friend.
Right, okay.
He's scathingly critical.
Right. So part of the reason why you set this club up was to sort of revive what the original one did, right?
Yes, and a way to... I mean, there's a lot of skeptics groups around New York, like I said, and there's people that... There's the American Atheist group, meetup group, there's the New York City Skeptics, which is great, but they're all more like either a bar night or very topic-oriented, like they'll discuss either strictly woo-woo in medicine or strictly woo-woo in something else. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of... The superstition is an underlying theme, but if you think about it, what's not a superstition that's irrational?
Yeah.
Homeopathy is as much of a superstition as acupuncture, as Reiki, as believing that a black cat can give you harm by crossing the street in front of you.
Yeah.
There's just a different flavor to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an excuse to have fun,
Yeah. Well, I don't see any black cats here today, Danny, so I guess maybe you've scared them away, have you?
Oh, I hope not. I love black cats. They're so cute.
So how can our listeners find out more about the Jolly 13 in New York City?
Well, right now we are on Facebook as the Jolly 13 of New York and Central New Jersey. I have a website which I update very rarely. It's badomens.org, and you can find out more about what I do on there. And also, Center for Inquiry has a great page on us, and the New York City Skeptics.
Okay, and how can people find you on Twitter and...
On Twitter, I am, if you search for the hash Bad Omens.
Bad Omens.
Yes,
okay.
Or my name, Daniel K. Well, I'm not going to say my last name because it's 14 letters. I am Eastern European. Apparently the parrot is getting very frustrated at something.
Yeah, I don't know if our listeners can hear that, but the parrot was just yelling at something. Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, Danny.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
As Danny said, you can find out more about the Jolly 13 Club by going to their Facebook page, which is Jolly 13 of New York and New Jersey, or check out the New York City Skeptics or the Center for Inquiry for more information. This was only the second interview Danny has ever done after the Fox interview, so I hope he is happier with the outcome of this one. I was also very lucky to meet Michael Roche at the Jolly 13 brunch. Michael is one of the co-founders of StopJenny.com, along with our own Kylie Sturgis. I took the opportunity to have a chat with Michael about why he set up the website and what sort of feedback he has been getting. Now, you set up StopJenny.com with Kylie Sturgis, is that right?
Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit about your website? It's StopJenny.com, and can you tell me what it's about?
Okay, sure, yeah. It's devoted to basically trying to expose kind of get to the bottom of the myths and misconceptions being perpetuated in the popular media about vaccines and autism, specifically focused on the claims of Jenny McCarthy.
So Jenny McCarthy, most of our listeners would know, but can you tell our listeners a little bit about her, for those of them who haven't heard of Jenny?
Okay, sure. Jenny McCarthy, basically she's an entertainer. She started off as a model, a Playboy bunny, and then she went into, she was a game show host on MTV, and basically she was a model and an actress. And all of a sudden, when her kid was allegedly diagnosed as autistic, first she got into a movement called the Indigo Moms movement, which has all sorts of wacky beliefs. But then she kind of moved on from that and she's sort of become the spokesperson of the anti-vaccination movement.
Yeah, can we talk about the Indigo Mum business for a moment? She wrote a book, didn't she, early on, about Evan, who's her son, being an indigo child. Can you tell us a little bit about what an indigo child is?
Sure, I'm not an expert on it, but from my understanding of it is, and I haven't read the book, but I read an essay she wrote, which is still available on the internet, where she basically describes it, and if you look it up on Wikipedia, there's a lot of information about it. But it seems like there was a belief for a time that a lot of kids that I guess had some autistic symptoms were seen as being, I guess, some higher level order of humanity, and that was the explanation for why they didn't communicate easily with us. And I guess it's a very easy belief for people want to believe their kid's special, as opposed to that there might be something neurologically wrong with them.
Now, can you tell us a bit about your website, Michael? What sort of things have you got on StopJenny.com?
Okay. Right now, I know Kylie's added some reviews of some of Jenny's books that she's read. We have links to a bunch of great resources about vaccines and autism, as well as some generic information about some of the most basic claims that Jenny McCarthy has been making.
And can you tell us some of those claims that she's made?
Sure. She's talked a lot about the ingredients of vaccines, the so-called toxins, such as she's gone on about antifreeze, which isn't in vaccines, formaldehyde, which is in vaccines, but to no greater degree than we are exposed to regularly.
Someone wrote something about the formaldehyde and said that there's much more in a banana that you would eat than there is in vaccines.
Right, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm sure Steve Novella or David Gorski would know better than I would. But, from what I understand is we regularly have formaldehyde exposure, and that the amount in vaccines is so minute.
Yeah. And she also claims that there's mercury in vaccines, doesn't she? And that's not true for many childhood vaccines, right?
Right. This is a huge one for the anti-vaccination movement. The claim that thimerosal, which is a mercury-based preservative, is in vaccines. And now, at least in the United States, I'm not sure where it is with Australia, but in the United States, it only remains in some flu vaccinations, and it's actually a form of mercury called ethyl mercury, which is it doesn't bioaccumulate, and it doesn't stay in the system the way that methyl mercury does. It's a far safer form, and the dosage again is so minute that it would take an extraordinarily large dosage to cause any kind of neurological damage.
Yeah, in most childhood vaccines, thimerosal was removed from them in the year 2000. In some cases, it's still used in the manufacturing process, but it's removed, so there might be trace amounts. But the thing that the anti-vaxxers try to say is that they infer that it's as you say, the methyl mercury, which is the organic mercury, which is bad stuff, but that is not what is in the manufacturing process of vaccines.
Right, and what they like to say to the public is there's mercury in vaccines, mercury we know is bad, and that's the end of the subject. And they leave out a huge wealth of information. And, mercury can be it's one of the, methyl mercury and even ethyl mercury, they can be very toxic things in high dosage. But these aren't the types of people who really know what they're talking about. And a great example is that Jenny has since praised Botox, which is obviously an even more dangerous toxin than any form of mercury.
Yeah, well, it's botulinum toxin, right? And that is incredibly toxic.
Right. And, she's still, this isn't even an older claim. This was a claim she made just a few months ago that she praised Botox, and this is well into her new career as spokesperson for the anti-vaccination movement.
So are you saying that she's that she might be getting her facts wrong and that she's perhaps a bit of a hypocrite, Michael?
Yeah, I think that's what I would say, sure.
So the aim of your website is to expose the misinformation that Jenny is perpetuating, is that right?
Yes. I started off by being really inspired by a skeptic named Robert Lancaster, who started Stop Sylvia.
Yeah.
And he was basically criticizing specifically Sylvia Brown. And I thought that was a great idea for the skeptical movement. I wanted to see more skeptics take on specific individuals so that if people Google or search those names, they could get the criticism right next to them.
Yeah.
And so since I didn't know much about I couldn't write a website on my own, I went to the James Randi Educational Foundation forums and asked people if anybody wanted to help me out, if anybody knew how to write a website. And I got a lot of hits. And first it was somebody who's still anonymous on our website, but is mostly responsible for designing the site and most of the hard work. And then through her, she had gotten in contact with Kylie Sturgis. And Kylie joined on, and her name as well as my own appear on the site.
So have you had a good response to the site? Is it getting lots of hits? And also, have you had any bad response, from anti-vaxxers?
Yeah, certainly when it first went up, because I did a heavy campaign the first week to get the skeptical and scientific bloggers to promote it. I contacted biologist P.Z. Myers, who's notorious for having a huge readership, and he promoted the site. David Gorski promoted it on his website. Phil Plate and a lot of great skeptics promoted it. So it got a huge hit, and then Tim Farley of What's the Harm helped to promote it. And so we did get a lot of critical comments as well, a lot of them accusing us of infringing on Jenny McCarthy's freedom of speech, which I never quite understood.
Right, okay. Right. But you're not trying to shut Jenny McCarthy down, you're just trying to make people aware that what she says is not right.
Right. I think anybody has the freedom to say whatever they want, I mean, to a degree. I mean, an argument could be made of the proverbial shouting fire in a crowded theater. Yeah. I mean, that argument can be made, but I mean, that's not the goal of the site. People can make that. That's politics. We're not trying to shut her up. We just want to inform the public.
Yeah. Well, thanks for talking to us today, Michael. And so listeners can go to stopjenny.com. Is that the right?
Yes, that's correct. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And just finally, here's a chat I had with some of the other people that were there on Sunday, the 13th of September.
If it looks unused.
Is everyone jolly?
I'm jolly.
We're jolly. I'm 3 cocktails in. I've never been jollier.
Who's jollier than Skeptic?
And that's Rebecca Watson's voice. You can hear that. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello, Rachie.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good now that you're here.
And you're wearing a lovely shirt today, which has been designed by our friend Ricky Burns from Perth.
Ricky is an amazingly talented artist, and I adore this shirt. She made it for the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, and it is one of my all-time favorite shirts, because before we just had our logo on a shirt, and now we have this amazing, like, 60s Beatle-esque awesomeness, and I get complimented on it everywhere I go.
Cool. Well, hi, Ricky. Say hi to Ricky, everyone.
Hello, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky. Hey, Ricky. Now, can you guys introduce yourselves and tell us why you're here or where you're from?
I'm Walter Mattingly. I'm from New Jersey, and I'm here because I don't believe in any superstitions.
I'm Kirsten. I'm married to Walter. Walter got me into this, and I'm glad he did.
I'm Michael of StopJenny.com, and I'm here because I love skeptics and I love hanging out with them.
I had a great time at the meeting of the Jolly 13 in New York City, and thanks Danny for the invitation. If you're in the area, I recommend you catch up with them on the 13th of every month for a drink, a chat, where you too will be able to sell your soul to Gerard the Unlucky Crow. And until next time, this has been Dr. Rachie Reports.
This is Desiree Schell, host of Skeptically Speaking. Check out our website at skepticallyspeaking.com and listen to us live on CJSR 88.5 FM in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I now return you to the Skeptic Zone.
Join us now for Drinking Skeptically in the Think Tank.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers, Dr. Rachie. Cheers. And cheers, Joe. And welcome to the Think Tank. It's wonderful to be back at our regular spot, Dr. Rachie.
Hi, Richard. How are you?
I'm really well. And hello to Joanne.
Hi, Richard.
And
very nice to be back.
It is, isn't it? And
while.
Dianne, hi.
Hi.
Hi, Dianne. Normally, we have another room here at our favourite club, but that room's being used, so we've sort of come out to the restaurant. So if you hear food sort of nomming noises in the background...
Then it's Richard Saunders.
Oh. No, we've all eaten. We all had a huge Chinese dinner.
We've nommed ourselves silly.
We have nommed ourselves silly. But it's great to be back in the Think Tank. The last Think Tank, in fact, that went out on the show was from New Zealand.
It was from Auckland, yeah. Skeptics in the Pub in Auckland. The very first Skeptics in the Pub in Auckland, wasn't it, Richard?
It was, apparently so. So thanks to Kylie Sturgis for doing that one for us. But now we're back at our regular spot. So let's kick off, Dr. Rachie. What do you have for us?
Well, I firstly wanted to send out a plug for our good friend Scott Gavura, who is a skeptical blogger from Canada. Scott has the website called Science-Based Pharmacy, and he's a pharmacist, and he writes some very good, critical, science-based posts about some of the things he comes across in his profession, which we all know is a bit of a problem in some parts of the world, particularly in Australia. Scott has recently become involved in a new blog called skepticnorth.com, and it's a pan-Canadian skeptical blog. It's just a collection of Canadian bloggers who have just got together to sort of do a bunch of posts. So he's blogging as part of that, so I urge you to check that out at skepticnorth.com.
I really like to hear about skeptics in Canada. I've got a very soft spot in Canada, of course, having lived there many years ago. And so a big shout out and a big hi to all our Canadian listeners, especially to the ones in Saskatchewan.
Oh, do we have some there, or just because you used to live there, Richard?
Both.
Okay. I also want to give a big shout out to everyone I met on my recent trip to the States. I went to Dragon Con, as you know, but I also went to Nexus in New York City. And I met lots and lots of people that I know from Twitter and from Facebook who I'd not actually set eyes upon before. So I had such a great time, and I want to thank everyone for...
Well, we could tell you had a great time from your Dr. Rachie reports over the last few weeks.
Yeah, and the one from today as well.
Yeah, and the 13 Club. That was fantastic.
Yeah, big shout out to Danny Kay, who runs the Jolly 13 in New York City. Yeah, it's a great, great club.
With a parrot in the background.
With a parrot in the background and an unlucky crow to which you can surrender your soul.
Which you did.
I did, yes. So if I start to fade away, or I don't know what happens when you surrender your soul. I don't know.
Apparently nothing.
Oh, nice. And just finally.
Why is everyone looking at me?
I don't know.
Do you mean I was evil before I surrendered my soul, Richard?
I can't tell much difference. That's all I'm saying.
I'll just eat a bit more now. Some of our listeners may have heard that some members of the Australian community filed a report to the Healthcare Complaints Commission about the Australian Vaccination Network. Now, that is currently being investigated by the Commission. They decided that the AVN would be subject to a full investigation. But in the meantime, we've had a bit of HCCC action of our own recently, haven't we, Richard?
Yes, a chiropractor from South Australia, I think.
Actually, I don't know where
I think he's from South Australia. Has lodged a complaint with the HCCC, which is the
Healthcare Complaints
Commission. Thank you. Because we reproduced something by Simon Singh on our website. And this chiropractor was most unhappy and complained to the government. Well, we've responded on our website, www.skeptics.com.au, and people can download our response to that complaint. Very interesting reading.
You can see his complaint, you can see our response to his complaint, and basically we reproduced the Simon Singh article, Beware the Spinal Trap, which is what caused the original problems with The Guardian, as part of a campaign organised by Sense About Science to get it reproduced across the world at the same time on lots of different blogs, so people could actually read the article for themselves, and he didn't like that.
Have you had any feedback from the HCCC?
Not yet.
It's still all in back and forth.
The complaint's not due until the 16th of October, so they won't do anything about it until then, so at that stage we'll know. But it's interesting reading because it's a little bit rambly, his complaint, and it doesn't really address the legislation. You know, you would assume that if he's claiming that we've breached the legislation, he would cite this part of the legislation has been breached. But
it's more of a rambling defence of chiropractic, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's more a kind of stamp my little foot, I'm cranky at you kind of.
I thought,
complaint.
Something.
It's not very well structured or laid out, and but have a look at the website and
it's all there.
Decide for yourself.
His whole complaint's there, plus our response. Well, let's toss the button to Joe. Joe.
That'll be me. Well, I think one of the big news items which we've all been hearing about the last 24 hours is the announcement of the Nobel Prize for Medicine, which most Aussies are feeling rather chuffed about because we've had our first ever female Nobel laureate. which is Professor Elizabeth Blackburn, who is a molecular biologist who is from Tasmania originally but is now based in the States. And Professor Blackburn won the Nobel Prize for her study of telomeres, which are, and Dr. Rachie knows far more about this than I do, but they are the caps that protect the chromosomes in cells. And Professor Blackburn discovered the telomerase, which is an enzyme that effectively controls the protection of the chromosome.
Yeah.
And she did this along with Jack Szostak, who worked on the DNA sequence part of the telomere, and Carol Greider, who identified the telomerase. And the fantastic thing about Professor Blackburn is that she is a very outspoken scientist who is very much for the non-politicisation of science, and was actually, as I read today, she was actually dropped from George Bush's Council on Bioethics in 2004 after questioning bias of this council.
What a badge of honour.
So she's very, very pro what I think the scientific community stands for and skeptical community stands for, and all around sounds like a rather special human being.
Congratulations to her. That's wonderful news. Wonderful news.
I was mentioning to Joe a little bit earlier that I heard a lot of coverage about this morning on the radio, and a couple of announcers on our public broadcaster, or government broadcaster actually, the ABC, were saying that this is such an amazing discovery because, as you know, the telomere, if it degrades, that is thought to be linked to ageing. So if you can maintain the length of the end of the chromosomes, which is called the telomere, you can prevent ageing. And so it's not really known whether there's a direct connection, but it is known that as it breaks down, ageing occurs.
Oh, right.
So these two presenters on the radio were saying that this is so amazing and it's such a breakthrough that now we won't need... it's basically a solution to ageing, and the cosmetics industry is going to go broke because we can just add some of this enzyme into some face cream and we'll all live forever. And
they use the media's favourite word, breakthrough.
But the thing is, they weren't really joking either.
No.
They were, and the thing that really surprised me about it was one of them should know better. I'm not going to mention his name, James Valentine. But, Nobel Prizes don't happen overnight, and this research has been around for 20 years, decades. We've known about the existence of telomeres for a long time, and they haven't revolutionised the cosmetics industry, and that's really not the point of this discovery anyway.
In fact, that's one of the things, is that it's the implications of this work that are so important, and anti-aging is the last thing that it would be used for, and in fact the importance...
But I heard that too, actually, in news reports today. I mean, that's the media, especially the commercial media, will look for something in this they can latch onto. One, Australian. Even though she's been living in the States for 30 years, it doesn't matter. She's an Aussie when it comes to this.
Absolutely.
Two, something the public...
our Elizabeth, right?
Something the public can easily understand. Anti-aging. Bing, 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 bing.
And it just demonstrates the... scientific illiteracy of the media who are reporting on this. That the real importance of this, which is actually in cancer research and in how we can actually look at drugs which may be able to target these areas, because part of it is that it's very much involved in how cancer cells grow and proliferate. So. That's really the important thing, but that doesn't...
Nevertheless, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
It is.
In any case, the cosmetic industry's already got that sorted. I think they've got stuff called Dianne anyway, so they don't need this. Yeah.
I don't think the cosmetic industry are in any fear of going broke.
No.
But
what's that face pack you're currently wearing, Richard? Would you like to tell our listeners?
It's called Salmon Express. Yes, every morning I slap raw salmon on my face. Have to keep the grizzly bears at bay, but...
Is it like being slapped across the face with a wet bed?
That's it.
Right. And then you get to nom it at the end.
But of course, the counterpart to the Nobel Prize is the Ig Nobel Prize,
Prize,
which, as the presenters of the Ig Nobel Prize say that the aim of the Ig Nobels are to present science which first makes people laugh and then makes people think. And they're presented by the Annals of Improbable Research. And the winners this year, I won't give you all of them. You can go and look at them yourself on the website for the Ig Nobels, which I don't actually have the name of at hand, but it shouldn't be hard to find. But some of them were really quite fabulous. So I think the winner for the Public Health Prize went to Dr. Elena Bodnar, who invented a brassiere which in an emergency can be converted to 2 face masks.
Very useful. Very, very useful.
And there's a lovely picture here which you can see on the website of some poor man wearing bra / face mask.
They're wearing it. They're wearing it.
Yeah, it's attractive.
It is, yes.
It's becoming.
So, like, if there's an emergency and you need a face mask...
Yeah, you just get the nearby woman to whip off her bra. We know women are very good at, removing their underwear.
And then you shove your face in it. Boom.
Yeah.
We never know.
There's a whole new niche fetish market. I mean.
Yeah. You never know when you are.
But these are special... these are special bras with straps so you can strap around your head or something.
They've got some kind of... each bra's cup section is fitted with a filter device, meaning the wearer can whip it off and attach each section to fit it over the face.
So, in an emergency, the wearer gets one, and she can pass it to her friend.
Which, kind of like how on an aeroplane, do you have to fit your own face mask
before you help others?
I got to see that on a sketch TV show. That would be great.
Now, some of the other prizes were the Peace Prize went to Stephen Bollinger and Stephen Ross, amongst others from Switzerland, for determining by experiment whether it is better to be smashed over the head with a full bottle of beer or with an empty bottle of beer.
Interesting.
And
we were going to conduct our own test, weren't we, Dr. Rachie?
Actually, we should.
We should.
We should submit that for next year's Ig Nobels, because I was looking at a journal today, a science journal, and I was trying to determine the impact factor, which is sort of the importance of the journal. That's known as an impact factor, and every journals are rated according to their importance. And I asked you what you thought the impact factor might be, and you suggested that perhaps if I bring the journal tonight and whack you over the head with it, we could determine the impact factor on your head.
Well, look, I happen to have...
Let's start this experiment right now.
I'm wondering what, perhaps something from the Journal of Homeopathy versus, say, the New England Journal of Medicine.
Yeah.
All I've got here is Living Now, Australia's favourite holistic magazine, which has, amongst other things, on page 33, swine flu. Are we being set up? Which is an anti-vaccination rant. So, look, Rachel, I'll roll that up.
Roll it up.
Hand it to you. You nong me on the head.
Ready? Set. Oh, come on.
That wasn't much of a knock.
No,
that wasn't much of an impact
factor.
No, not much impact factor there.
Oh!
Okay, that's got an impact factor of about 4.
That's not so good.
If you give it to me, I'd quite happily go and nom a few people.
What about this? Nova.
Oh, that's even better.
Nova.
So you reckon that's an impact factor of 4?
And this is Nova, Australia's holistic journal, all right?
And this is the holistic magazine.
You want to nong me on the head? Sure. Diane's going to nong me. Ready?
Ready?
Yep. Oh!
Sorry, Richard.
Okay, that's an 8.
I think we possibly have an altered level of consciousness going on here now.
Okay, so that's a reasonably low impact factor in the scheme of things.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Well, no, because, for example, the Lancet has an impact factor of around 40, and neurotoxicology, which is where Andrew Wakefield's recently published a new article, is 2.
All right. Well, that's...
So you've fallen right near the bottom of the bell curve there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, one of the factors that could be contributing to this is the particular noggin that you're...
That's true.
Yeah.
And also we need to do it at least 3 times.
Yeah, I think this could be an Ig Nobel. The impact factor of various Woo magazines on my noggin.
Great. Let's submit it for next year. What else have you got there,
Oh, I love this one. The prize for physics went to Catherine Whitcomb and Daniel Lieberman and Lisa Shapiro from the universities of Cincinnati and Texas for analytically determining why pregnant women don't tip over.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm just wondering whether this paper actually involved, tipping pregnant women.
Some of them,
perhaps cow tipping or
like when they're asleep, standing up.
Yeah,
you hook up to them and tip them, and they bounce back. I don't know.
And just the last one I'll mention to you, which I think came in light of the global financial crisis, was the Economics Prize. And many of us would remember that the banks in Iceland took a rather hard knock during the global financial crisis. So the Ig Nobel Prize for...
That's the bank that went under.
iSafe. Oh.
So the Ig Nobel Prize for Economics went to the directors, executives and auditors of 4 Icelandic banks for demonstrating that tiny banks can be rapidly transformed into huge banks and vice versa, and for demonstrating that similar things can be done to an entire national economy. So some lovely prizes this year from the Ig Nobels.
Oh, can you just mention the one that tickled my fancy, Joe, was the one about the cows.
Oh, the cows!
Yeah.
The prize for veterinary medicine from Newcastle University for showing that cows who have names give more milk than cows that are nameless.
What? Oh.
What? But interestingly, that's the layman's title. The actual name of the research is Exploring Stock Managers' Perceptions of the Human-Animal Relationship on Dairy Farms and an Association with Milk Production.
Oh, I see.
Astounding.
So Daisy gives more milk than the brown cow.
Mm-hmm.
Or Daisy gives more milk than 4121/8 or something.
Yeah, true.
So thank you to the Ig Nobels this year.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, did you want me to go next?
I'm going to keep going.
Sorry, no, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about Daisy the cow, in fact.
You want to nom Daisy?
She does. She's thinking about the steaks.
I was thinking about the ice cream and the yogurt and the nice milk. I blogged about this yesterday, in fact.
On the Skeptic's Book of Poo-Poo.
The Skeptic's Book of Poo-Poo, which is Rebecca Watson's favourite name for a blog.
Is it?
Because she particularly liked it when I was presenting at Nexus. John Rennie, who is the editor-in-chief of Scientific American, was moderating my panel. He had to introduce me, so he had to read out in front of a 400-seater venue that I write for the Skeptic's Book of Poo-Poo. That gave Rebecca a chuckle. Anyway, many of us would have heard about the tragic death of 14-year-old Natalie Morton last week, who died just hours after receiving the HPV cervical cancer vaccine in the UK. And of course, the anti-vaxxers have gone hysterical, as they want to do. Now, the autopsy, which was released a few days ago, showed that she actually had a malignant tumour in her chest, and this was deemed the cause of her death. But of course, correlation equals causation in the world of anti-vax, so they're saying that it can't be so. Of course, this is all over the internet, but there was one particular article that I decided I would sort of dissect, and that was from a website called naturalnews.com. Now, these guys had an opinion piece where they basically said that the mainstream media is obviously reporting a fabricated explanation for her death. And they're saying that a pathologist is declaring that Natalie died from a malignant chest tumour that just coincidentally and suddenly killed her within hours. So they're saying that blaming it on cancer is very easy to do, since every person living today has cancerous tumours in their body right now. All the pathologist has to do was locate such a tumour, then dismiss the vaccine altogether.
You're kidding.
No. They're also saying here, but why would a pathologist cover up the true cause of Natalie Morton's death? So they're inferring that the pathologist is in fact lying.
Lying, yeah. Negligent lying.
And then this is what they said about the executives of GlaxoSmithKline, who are the people that manufacture the vaccine. This person said, it takes a real cold-hearted CEO to watch your product potentially kill a 14-year-old girl in mere hours and then continue to recommend that same product to millions more. So in an even more preposterous link of
leap of logic.
Apparently a GlaxoSmithKline spokesman said GSK's deepest sympathies lie with the parents at this very sad time. And this commentator has said that it is merely a Freudian slip, since this statement contains the word parents and lie. Therefore...
yes, I read that.
Therefore... What? Yeah, because...
Purely because he used the word lie, that our thoughts lie with the parents. And this was a Freudian slip because he used the word lie.
So therefore he's actually lying to the parents about the cause of death of Natalie Morton. Yeah.
But, I mean, the thing is, Natural News are notorious for the most outrageous posts. This is the same website that posted that absolutely disgusting piece about Patrick Swayze after he died, claiming that if he had taken natural remedies, then he would have been cured of his pancreatic cancer.
Every now and then you just think you've heard it all, right? You really do. I mean, and I've been at this for a long time, but that one, the Freudian slip.
I know. It's amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
I mean, you're right, Joe, and this is also the website that published the press release recently, which was claiming that a lawsuit had been begun in the USA to challenge compulsory vaccination, and it looked like it was going to be the beginning of the rolling back of compulsory vaccination in the USA. And it turned out, after that was sent all over the internet, and the AVN sent it out as a press release as well, that in fact there were some errors in that story, and
one or two.
They did actually to write a retraction. And the interesting thing about the retraction was they said, for the record, what was factually incorrect about the story is that no such injunction has been filed. Thus, the entire premise of the story was factually incorrect. So it's not like in paragraph 3, line 4, we said, this is Mr. Joe Blogs instead of Jim Blogs. It's the fact that the whole thing was a hoax. And they said that it got missed by their in-house editor, who did not catch the significant errors in the article. I mean, they weren't the only ones to be duped, by the way. It happened to a lot of people. They were one of the few to actually write a retraction. And I know several people that wrote to the AVN and politely suggested they might like to issue a retraction, but that was never forthcoming. But in any case, apart from this being completely outrageous, it's also potentially libelous.
Yes.
Because they're basically saying that the pathologist is covering up the cause of Natalie's death.
Yes.
They're inferring that the GSK knows that it was the vaccine, and despite that is still recommending it to other young girls. So, you know, if they wanted to take this to a situation where they were to sue them, I'm sure that this is defamation.
It certainly seems like it. And the thing I find alarming as well is that in a country like England, where the MMR autism propaganda hit particularly hard, the confusion and misinformation over vaccination is particularly strong, and vaccination rates have really taken a hit, and as we know, there have been measles outbreaks and so on. So, you know, and the UK tabloids being as using as much shock value as they can, I'm going to run with this sort of thing and print the first things that come to hand that have any shock value. So, you know, I mean, this kind of thing really has the potential to decrease the uptake of what is a essentially life-saving vaccine.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's the same as all this nonsense surrounding swine flu safety and has it been tested and all that stuff. You know, I mean, Richard and I spent hours on the weekend going through an AVN press release and rebutting everything that they'd said about the alleged dangers of the swine flu vaccine. You know, and one of those things was that in 1976, when there was a swine flu epidemic, that there were those cases of GBS, Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a paralysis, usually reversible. And when you look at the figures, it's the risk of getting GBS from the vaccine is the same as what you would get in the environment from another infection, and it's about 1 in a million. And the chances of getting struck by lightning is about 1 in 70,000. So when you think of it like that, you know, there's really...
But I mean, so much of what comes down to...
Dianne looks worried.
Yeah, especially as we know Dianne has a habit of walking around in thunderstorms.
As anybody who follows Dianne on Twitter will know, she posts pictures of herself getting soaked in thunderstorms.
Yeah.
Is it really 1 in 70,000?
I'm pretty sure it is.
I'm sure listeners will find out.
Yeah, it's a lot more common.
And some people
if it's
get
not,
stuck
I'm sure
twice,
we'll hear about it.
Yeah.
Some people get stuck twice or 3 times or something ridiculous like that.
Well, that's true. Yeah. But and one of the things that also the anti-vaxxers have been saying about the GBS thing is that the reason that it's a real risk is because already UK GPs have been warned to look out for it. Well, on the contrary, that's just an extra safety measure because we know it's happened in the past and we don't really know why.
You are going to look for something, anything that is a potential risk, you're going to look for.
Sensible.
Well, exactly.
A minute risk.
Even if it's, adverse events are reported, whether that be, fainting or fits or whatever, and that's just. This is unique to this particular vaccine.
But Rachel, as a nurse working in a hospital, everything we do in medicine is designed to safeguard. Every check we do, every time we do a procedure and we go through a list of people's allergies and medical history, everything we're doing is designed to safeguard patients, to ensure that things don't go wrong. Human error can happen, things can go wrong, there are risks involved in everything we do, but in well-evidenced healthcare where safeguards are put in place, it's designed to protect people.
Sure.
It's not designed to set them up to be harmed.
No.
Which actually moves me on to another interesting topic.
What a segue.
We love our segues. So I took a little road trip to Newcastle a couple of weekends ago.
Which is just up the road from Sydney.
Yeah, north of Sydney. It's about an hour and a half's drive, and a very pleasant drive down our F3 freeway. And about halfway between Sydney and Newcastle is a little pit stop.
Where is it?
I can't remember exactly where it is, but it's halfway down the F3 between Sydney and Newcastle.
Mount White or
Gosford? Can't remember. But it's basically the only major stopping point between the two. And on either side of the road, there's a petrol station, McDonald's, and now, and amongst other little sort of eateries. And now there is a new restaurant called Oliver's, which advertises itself, and I've got some pictures here which I'll share with you all. Oliver's advertises itself as an organic, gluten-free, vegetarian eatery, giving people real food. And the thing about Oliver's that has really gotten under my skin...
Through clenched teeth.
Is that this is not just a restaurant that is selling lovely, healthy food. The fact is, their food is lovely, healthy, fresh food. It's an alternative for people who are stopping off, who don't want to eat a hamburger or something like that. But they have taken it upon themselves to be a health educator of sorts. They are, if you go to their website, which I can't find I'm not very good at finding websites names. Anyway, if you look them up online, you can find them. But they are promoting the whole notion of organic, healthy, natural, and so on. And in doing this, there are a couple of things they're doing. First of all, they're selling organic water.
Oh, good old organic
water. As opposed to what? Synthetic water?
As opposed to synthetic water, yes.
600 millilitres of organic water, only $2.80, or 2 for $5. What a bargain.
Yeah.
And they're actually, interestingly, they're affiliated with some fairly important organisations, such as the University of Newcastle and the Heart Foundation, and a lot of organisations involved in obesity prevention and obesity research and so on. And it's a very swish-looking little organisation. It's all very bright and shiny and
nice logo.
Wonderful looking, nice logo. But as you go into the ladies' toilets, the first thing you notice as you walk through the door is a big thing on the side of the door.
As some of us go into the ladies' toilets. Not me.
You never know.
Half our audience would go into the ladies'
Sneak
toilet.
in there. They're promoting all sorts of reading material from people such as Philip Day and Patrick Holford, who many of our listeners would have heard of.
As in books, there's books there.
As in these books. And, for example, the book by Philip Day, which they're promoting, is called Cancer, Why We're Still Dying to Know the Truth.
Oh, dear.
And the promotional pamphlet asks, are chemotherapy, radiotherapy and surgery really the answer to cancer? They ask, why does Australia have such low cancer survival rates?
What?
I mean, effectively they're promoting a whole lot of nonsense. And
what natural, non-toxic therapies work, and why have these been marginalised?
Now, Dr. Rachie, I thought you'd quite like this one. They're promoting a product called Celtic sea salt. And some of the claims they make about this is that pure sodium chloride is a toxin to the body. Unrefined sea salt has the opposite effect on the body. That nature put 84 elements in salt as a buffer to protect us from sodium chloride. And that big companies extract the precious elements out of the salt to sell for profit. And the sodium chloride is what's left over. The major reaction that we have to the sea salt as opposed to this horrible sodium chloride is a renewal of energy. So it's standard natural health
Rubbish.
rubbish.
But that was just a bunch of gibberish that you just...
Complete bunch of gibberish.
Spouted.
Thank you. The what, Bob? Yeah.
And only, for only $15 you can buy Cancer, the latest breakthrough. Now let me finish.
Don't pause after cancer.
Yeah, that's right.
For $15 you can buy Cancer, the latest breakthrough CD. Now, you can't claim to cure cancer, can you? It's illegal.
No, it's illegal. But are they claiming to cure it?
Probably
If
not.
you go onto their website, you'll see that they're heavily promoting a DVD called Food Matters, which I think I might have mentioned on the podcast before. And Food Matters is a very, very slick little production from people like Patrick Holford and many of that ilk. And it's making the usual claims about how everything in our life, everything in our bodies is basically preventable with, these perfect nutrition and so on.
Of course, it
It's the usual
always gets
stuff.
back to you can cure or you can prevent all diseases if you eat right.
If
and
you eat right,
live
so
happy, natural lives, or whatever the hell it is.
But hang on a second, Joe. You just told me that sodium chloride is evil, right?
Exactly.
But on this particular poster you've put in front of me, they're saying that
I know.
water and salt are natural medicines. And for many prevalent and very serious medical conditions. So they apparently cure?
Yeah, so according to their one book, sodium chloride is a toxin to the human body. But in the other book, salt is a natural medicine, and that apparently the public are being seriously misled.
It's good on chips.
So,
No, that's right. It says the public is being seriously misled over the necessity for water and salt in the diet. But then up here on the same page, they've said that they are natural medicines. But here they're saying...
But on our other little thing, they're saying that it's...
How surprising. They've contradicted themselves.
Who would have thought? The thing about this that worries me is that, it is going to attract people. Any family driving through there is going to want to stop, and the whole colourfulness and the
pretty
look
bad.
of the whole place
It's
is
pretty
very
bad.
appealing, and it's really...
We should sick rat bag onto him.
Oh yes.
Well, no, we should sick the HCCC onto them, actually, because a lot of this stuff is illegal.
Well, we'll wrap it up pretty soon now, but I think, Joe, you've got something else.
One
You're
last thing. I've
waving
got
a
a bucket
paper
load
there.
of stuff today. So some of you might have heard in the news today that there's been another development in investigations of the Shroud of Turin, which I haven't read it myself, but the very well-known investigator of the paranormal, Joe Nichol, is very, very knowledgeable on the Shroud of Turin, and his book Inquest on the Shroud of Turin was published back in 1987, and yet still, despite many of the scientific studies of the Shroud, there are still people today who, of course, believe that the Shroud of Turin is real. But anyway, what was done, and interestingly, the research group who funded this were an Italian organisation of atheists, agnostics, and as they called it, a debunking group. And they were able to use certain techniques to prove that the shroud could have been manufactured or made using the techniques available in the 13th or 14th century, which is when it was carbon dated to.
Yeah.
And they've been able to reproduce the equivalent to the shroud, showing further that it was a man-made fake. So a nice little piece of research from this group, and as I said, despite the fact that it's long been known that it was a fake,
here's another piece.
It's actually
of
interesting
evidence
that the Catholic Church hasn't actually said it's the authentic shroud. They haven't actually authenticated it. They say it's a religious, it establishes faith and what have you. So I just found that interesting.
Yeah, that's true, Dianne. I read that as well. They were saying that the church makes no claims about its authenticity, but that it's a powerful symbol of Christ's suffering.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah, that's very true. So.
Well, on that interesting note, and we made it through a whole think tank with no bus announcements. Can you believe it?
I feel unfulfilled.
So will our listeners.
I know.
Can you maybe
edit one
dub
in?
one in?
Yeah. No.
Maybe one of us can record a bus announcement.
I tell you what, now I'll leave our listeners just waiting until the next think tank when probably they will hear a bus announcement.
Yeah.
All right.
Tune in next time, listeners, for a bus announcement.
You only love us for our bus announcements.
So thank you, Dianne, for coming along.
No problem. Richard.
Lovely
It
to
was a
see you.
pleasure.
Joe, thank you so much for your lovely reports. And Dr. Rachie, again, thank you for your work and your Dr. Rachie report.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, everybody. Until next time. Prost. Thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of The Skeptic Zone. I sure hope you enjoyed it. Now, please, if you do enjoy listening to The Skeptic Zone, and thousands of you do, judging by the figures, please let people know. Word of mouth does more for us than just about anything else. Please let your friends and family know that you listen to The Skeptic Zone and they might enjoy it too. Blog about it, sing about it, write about it. Don't graffiti about it, but anything like that. We'd really appreciate it. Anyway, until next week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.
The Skeptic